Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Hakam. I am the Group CEO for Türk Telekom, and it's a pleasure to be here. We have a saying in Arabic, I'm Palestinian. I've been in this great city for about 2.5 years. Before that, I used to work for the controlling shareholder, OJ. I was in charge of mergers and acquisitions. We have a saying in Arabic. We say that you are coming to sell water in the street of the people who actually sell water. So it's difficult to talk to you about technology and digital life. So I'll do the best I can to just brief you on what we are doing in Türk Telekom, what my takes are on the future, and what's important for our company, and what's important for our group of companies. We are 9 companies. We have a mobile arm. We have an ISP, we have a fixed operator with business focus, and we are challenged. We are extremely challenged. I personally started my career as, when I finished high school, I wanted to become a dentist, and I was accepted in the United States, in University of Maryland, and I said, you know, I'm going to become a dentist because I want to help people. But that took about 2 days. I went in and I saw the blood and the bad, teeth and all, and I said, you know what, this is not for me. So I decided that I'm going to become a journalist. And I said, I'm going to engage in journalism. I want to help humanity and maybe become, like Lisa, as the greatest journalist in the world. And I talked to my father and I said, I'm going to become a journalist. And he said, you know what, that's great, my son, I'm very proud of you, but if you want me to pay for your education, you need to change this university. So as I was, I didn't know what to do. I was 17 and lost, and then I was really razzle-dazzled. A friend of mine invited me at her home, and she had this remarkable machine. It was called the PC. This was in the late 80s, okay? It had 20 megabytes hard drive. It had an 8088 processor, which was extremely fast by that standard. And the RAM was about 512K. And this machine just was amazing. And for me, it was the future. Because I thought that this is not only for computing purposes, but this is going to be an industry that helps all industries. And I was infatuated by this industry. And we moved forward. I had a scholarship. I went to as an intern in NASA and worked there for 2 years, learned a lot, and then finally, decades later, I'm in Turkey. And I think Turkey has a very special duality. You have the economy and demographics of an emerging nation, but you have some of the institutions and some of the culture and politics and independent judiciary system that doesn't compare to most emerging nations. So the risk of doing work in Turkey is much less. And you have great youth and great field for innovation. And I think that this is going to lead Turkey, despite all the challenges, to a much higher domain. I know that we are not looking at a fad, but we're looking at a trend, because Istanbul especially, and Turkey in general, is becoming a hub for ideas. And a lot of people are looking up to Turkey, not only the Middle East, but you would see in Europe that they're looking to some of the ideas that are happening here in Turkey, on the regulatory side, on some of the manufacturing, on many issues that's dealing with human resources. There is a model that's being built here in Turkey. Now, our industry is extremely competitive. It's an industry that changes every day. And it's very difficult to understand what's really happening. Of course, you know how the speeds are increasing, how the information is coming to your fingertips very quickly, but what is really changing? What is really happening? I think what is really happening is that we are witnessing a social change, economic change, and a political change, because with this age that we live in, it is the death of mass media. In 1991, the last hope for mass media was with CNN and the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. From that year on, with the surge of the internet, the age of mass media is gone. Now we're talking a new age, an age of transparency, an age of creativity, an age of dealing with privacy issues, an age with dealing with young people who have something to say, an age with dealing with groups, an age and not countries, an age of one must become very successful at the local and the regional geographies and not on the nationwide geography. It's an age where there's much bigger room of debate, much bigger room of equality, much bigger room for innovation and great ideas. And that changes everything we have. That changes everything. Remember, information technology is heard by the people in information. Telecommunication is heard by the people in telecommunications. Our disruptive technology that's happening in telecommunications is actually unique in all industries of the world. Our disruptive technology is price. We have managed to destroy value in voice, which is the greatest gift that God has given the human being. Today, it's almost zero value. And we're about to do this in data, because we are tremendously competing with the price. Big companies often, and always, not only often, but always, react to disruptive technologies a little bit late and the wrong way. Smaller company, more agile companies react much quicker to these technologies. So we have our disruptive technology to us is price. And what has hurt us the most, and what has brought the challenges to us today, even though we've done, I think, great things in our history, especially in the emerging markets. If you look at the mobile phone, it's the greatest product in history of the world. Really, in terms of penetration, it has the highest, it's not a subjective opinion, it's an objective opinion, because the penetration rates of mobile phone, there's nothing in the world that was as fast growing as the mobile phone. Not the internet, not the television, not the radio. So we've done some good things. We have put huge infrastructure. If you look at 4 years ago, you would download a movie in what, 4 hours? Today you can do it in 10, 15 minutes. We paid for that infrastructure, and actually now it's cheaper. That same service that you get, it's cheaper. So I understand that we've done some great work. Even on the work we have done in the economies in terms of hiring women, educating youth, bringing up very strong calibers. In the emerging markets, you see that telcos have played a great role. But our self-destruction was in terms of our disruptive technology, which is actually, as I said, it's the price. Today we are competing mostly on the price, and something has to give. We have to reinvent ourselves. When the companies came in the United States and the internet companies surged, it didn't help, because their business model was also based on price. They came up with free products. So now, not only are we competing in changing economies, not only are we competing in changing consumers, not only are we competing with changing technologies, extremely competitive environment, we are also competing with free business models. And that requires a long look about yourself and understanding what is it really that you should become. And I think the most important trait that us as Türk Telekom Group, and in general, people in our industry, especially the ones who are looking for scale, I think the most important factor is agility. How do we respond? Because if we try to see how do we respond to change, if we try and predict change, if we try to predict what's going to happen, often we will not be successful. So the successful companies are the ones who are agile. And we are trying to do this in Türk Telekom Group. We've done a huge transformation project that's going to take 3 to 5 years. We've added a lot of new people, new talent from different industries. We're trying to recreate how we do work. It's difficult. We're a 160-year-old company, but it must happen. We must reinvent ourselves and rediscover ourselves. Now, I think with the tremendous competition that we are facing, we are looking at ourselves and saying, did our business model die? Is it only for value-added services and internet companies like the Googles of the world and the Facebooks of the world? And I think the most important factor that we all need to discover in telecommunication is what the Americans have been doing for a while. If you see what's happening in the internet world today, even though they're talking about freedom of choice, equal opportunity, and all of these things, the successful companies that have arisen, the 4 or 5 companies, are basically monopolies. Basically monopolies. Google is a monopoly, Facebook is a monopoly. Amazon is a monopoly. Because the American regulator, how they compare growth, they know that it's very important to have scale. Scalability is the key factor. And the Europeans are looking at themselves today and saying, how come we don't have that company? Because the way they're regulating in Europe, where they're saying something is getting too big, we need to see how we can maintain its size, as opposed to the United States, where they're saying something is getting too big, that's fine, how can we make others as big as them and provide that equal opportunity? To us, it's scale. And I see that the regulatory framework in Europe, the regulatory framework in Turkey, and actually in some areas Turkey has moved quickly in terms of giving us, not only us, the whole industry, the 5-year for the fiber, where they're not going to regulate the fiber, they are trying to enhance investments. And if you see how we have invested last year in fiber, no country has, in Europe even, has invested in fiber in 2012 as us. Now, the Europeans have changed their way, have changed their mind on how to look at these things, and they want to take part of the internet growth, and they want to be able to compete with these huge companies and these monopolies. And how they look at it is, how are we going to regulate ourselves? Because there's 2 huge differences between Europe and the United States. And the main difference that we all need to act with and deal with, and it's also in Turkey, is privacy. Privacy issues privacy is a constitutional right in Europe. Your privacy is a privacy of the citizen. In the United States, privacy is a trade regulated by the trade and commerce. There are rules to it. And the companies growing in Europe have to have a separation, have to support, have to save, have to secure the accounts of the customers. And these privacy issues are now, I think, the biggest challenges. How are we going to protect the privacy issues like that? How are the Googles and the Facebooks of the world going to deal the same way in Germany, in Britain, even in some parts of Asia? And the Europeans are trying to reinvent themselves on how they look at these issues. Do they ask themselves, is it fair if you send an email that you say, I love tennis, you get tennis promotions? How fair is it that you can share the records of the product? Is that what we get for getting a service for free? So there is a big reinvention. And I think I'm giving you this example just to show you the importance of agility. And that's what we're trying to create in Türk Telekom Group today, is this agility, how we can act to these things that are developing. Because every day and every minute there's a new development, and this new development is basically unpredictable. And it doesn't, the last point I want to make, it doesn't really measure on who has the better technology. Absolutely not. There are horrible technologies that have won and have become aces in the world. I think one of the greatest technologies in the world, to remember what Lee has said, is the Polaroid camera. There is no technology today that is as fast as printing a photo. But what happened to it? Didn't work out. I think it's the business model, how we treat our customers, how we look internally at ourselves, that makes the differences. Operating systems, Windows, what a horrible product. What a horrible product. 80–85% of the market for 25 years. Of course, there are new products that are going to come up, but this is a different paradigm. That's a paradigm shift. So we need to look at how good the technologies are, what we can do with them, but also the business models and how we view ourselves and how we change the way we think and the way we act. And that is extremely difficult, especially for companies that have been successful. I think success brings you the biggest challenge. Because when you are successful, you believe that what you're doing was right, is right, and it's very difficult to change.